This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter. Welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe birthday boy. And the birthday boy for today, April the 21st, is a Mets icon. This guy actually has a baseball record. He played for the Mets, the Dodgers, the Indians, the Brewers, the Orioles, Cardinals, Padres, Yankees, and Twins. A lot of teams. His career started in 1981, I think. Yeah, his career kind of started in 1981 and ended in 2003. So he lasted 22 years as a pitcher. 22 years is a long baseball career. He was 46 years old when he retired. And in fact, is only one of 31 players to appear in a baseball game, MLB game, in 4 decades. His longevity was because of the left-handed specialty pitchers of the 90s onwards. He's pitched in 1,252 games in his MLB career, and that's still the record to this day. For context, the average pitcher might throw 80 games, so you would have to do that roughly 15, 16 years to do that. But anyway, his name is Jesse Orosco, who's now 66 years old. Orosco was drafted by Minnesota in the baseball draft in 1978. However, the Twins and Mets had made a deal, and the Mets sent Jerry Koosman, their legend, pitcher of the '69 World Series, to Minnesota. So the Twins, well, of course, the player to be named later was Orosco, going to the Mets, and pitched in 1979 with the Mets. However, he didn't start pitching until 1981, being in the majors for a long time. So anyway, in 1983, he was good. He had a 1.47 ERA, winning 13 games and saving 17. And actually took third in the NL Cy Young voting. Which is strange because as a relief pitcher, you don't usually come in games and win double digits. Anyway, in 1984, he did better. He got 31 saves and took third in, which was third in the NL, and won 10 games. So yeah, he was good and all that. But by 1985, the Mets decided to have kind of a platoon system for closers. So he was the left-handed closer, Orosco, but the right-handed closer was Roger McDowell to close out games, which was weird because Orosco and McDowell is they're both pretty good closers. Are they going to share saves? I guess they did. So anyway, Orosco in 1983 was the third and to date last Mets pitcher to win 2 games on the same day. Obviously, you're going to have like a doubleheader. So thanks to extra inning walk-off wins, the Mets won both games of a doubleheader, and Orosco got the pitcher record. Orosco would be famously known for his 1986 postseason, which was why the Mets won the World Series. He was on the mound when he closed out the NLCS against the Astros and the World Series against the Red Sox. So anyway, he did his job, striking out the final batter both times. Of course, it was the famous photo of him after striking out Marty Barrett. He threw his glove way up in the air and dropped his knees while Gary Carter ran out to embrace him. Orosco picked up 3 wins in relief for the Mets in that 86 NLCS. And yes, he did get the win in Game 6 in that famous 16-inning game. He was the winning pitcher. They didn't want to go with a closer to close the game. Anyway, the funny thing was that the Mets, in their other World Series, they won. In 1969, Jerry Koosman, the guy who was traded to Minnesota for the rights to Orosco, was that guy. And also funny is that Davey Johnson, who was the guy who got the last out of the 69 World Series as a member of the Orioles, was the manager of the 86 Mets. Orosco was virtually unhittable against left-handed batters. The Mets shockingly traded him in a 7-player deal to the Dodgers. He played 1 year for LA and actually pitched in the 1988 World Series and won the World Series as a member of the Dodgers. I completely forgot about that. He decided to go to Cleveland for 3 years. So yeah, Cleveland had Orosco for a while. And then for the latter half of the 90s, he stayed with the Orioles for a while. By 1999, he set their all-time record for most relief appearances with 1,051, passing the great Kent Turkville. Orosco only played 33 innings and was on 3 different teams. He was a Padre, then he went to the Yankees for a player to be named later. And then he played his last game where he should have played, in Minnesota, before they traded him to the Mets. He actually signed with the Diamondbacks and was going to pitch, but he retired before spring training. Unfortunately, he didn't do well on the Baseball Hall of Fame voting. Anyway, that was not too good. Orosco still is the only player in Major League history with more than 1,200 games pitched and all that. We're just like, unbelievable. The icon that he is. So yeah, so Orosco started out life with the Mets. Played till 1988. Was a Dodger for 1 year. Went to Cleveland for 3 years. Went to Milwaukee for 3 years. I didn't know Orosco was part of the Milwaukee squad that almost took down the Jays in 92 for the AL East. Then he went to Baltimore for 5 seasons, I guess. And then 2000 he went to St. Louis, and then he was a Dodger for a few years. And then in 2003 he played for San Diego Yankees and Minnesota all at the same time. So yeah, he was an icon. Pitching in the postseason, he pitched in the 86 postseason, in the 88 postseason. Oh, he didn't pitch in the World Series. Okay, well, it doesn't matter. And then with Baltimore, he played a few years for them. So anyway, he was still pretty good and all that. He was an icon. So yeah, the trades. Orosco was traded to the Mets, of course, to complete the Jerry Koosman trade. And then there was a 3-team trade with things. The Dodgers traded Bob Welch and Matt Young to Oakland, who ironically pitched against them in the 88 World Series. The Dodgers sent Jack Savage to the Mets. Oakland sent Alfredo Griffin and Jay Howell to the Dodgers, which was funny because obviously, you know, Griffin and Howell were on the other side of things for the 88 World Series. And then the Mets sent the Mets also sent Oakland sent Tapani and kept Wally Whitehurst to the Mets, and the Mets sent Orosco to LA. Got free agency, Cleveland signed his free agency, and then as a part of a conditional deal, Cleveland traded him to Milwaukee. And then he was signed as a free agent a couple times, and then he was traded from the Orioles back to the Mets for Chuck McElroy. But the Mets didn't want him, and by March they traded him to St. Louis for Joe McEwing. Free agency. He signed some free agent deals. And then the Padres traded him to the Yankees for the 2003 stretch drive, and then the Yankees traded him to the Mets in 2003. So yeah, that's kind of weird. But anyway, yeah, Orosco did his job. And that's all that needs to be said about J.O.C. Orosco. He did his job. He was a Met icon, 1,200 games. Hey, anything for the product. I'm Jeff Diamond, I do.